I'm doing $4,455 per day in revenue with this e-commerce brand right here. And in this video, I want to show you exactly what this brand sells, what our approach is, how we made this happen, and most important of all, how you can replicate this for your own e-commerce brand. But before we get into all of these nitty-gritty details, let's take a step back and understand a little bit more about this brand. So this brand sells very specific types of home-related products such as mattresses, toppers, pillows, etc. So anything home related, this brand sells, and the brand already is appearing here, but due to security reasons I will not be able to reveal which brand it is. But this is a very unique brand because we actually began working with it a little over a month ago, and yes, this is a brand under my Google Ads agency, Your Marketing. But essentially, if we look right here on the Google Ads side of things, we began working with this brand roughly on March 20th, so it's not been too long because I'm recording this video on the 17th of April. But if we look right here from before the 20th of March, the results overall were really not that amazing. I mean, if we just look at it, they were doing decent numbers during that time, $1,000, $3,000 a day. However, things were very inconsistent, and we're gonna go over the problems that this brand came with, which most brands, including yours, potentially have. But essentially, we had to work with this brand from that period onwards to really get the brand scaling to levels like these, where the biggest day they had in a few months was a $10,000 day on a Wednesday on April 3rd. But during the time that they initially approached us, they really had a few major problems within their brand. And number one, they were hitting these numbers where before, in a lot of the campaigns, although it seemed like they were making money, the reality was there were constant fluctuations. On one day, they would do $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in sales, but then the numbers, they were completely off. So the real numbers in the back end that they were seeing from Google was potentially half of this. And this was due to the conversion tracking issue side of things, but because of the conversion tracking issues, their campaigns were not able to optimize. So even on the days that the brand was actually doing good, it was not able to replicate those results, thus leading to inconsistencies. Second major issue they had was there was too much activity going on within the ad account. I mean, if we look right here, with all of the campaigns that they had running during that time, they had 20 to 30 different campaigns running. And for this level of scale where you're barely crossing $100,000, $200,000 a month, you don't need this many campaigns, because all this does is it ends up overcomplicating the process. It makes it extremely difficult for the algorithm to go after the right kind of people. So essentially, there was just too much activity. But of course, like with any other brand, before I could actually even start working with this brand and start scaling it to the next level, we had to do a complete look into this brand to understand where things were going wrong in terms of the actual campaign side of things, in terms of how their products were coming up on Google. Because when we first began working with this brand, the main problem that this brand had was it was ranking number 1 and number 2. And I say this is a problem because most cases, if you're ranking number 1 and number 2 with your listings, you're most likely losing money. And that's because if you have a very strong ad with a very strong approach, most cases you can be all the way in the back right here. You could be all the way in the back and still capture a lot of attention. That's what this brand was missing out on. So they thought that they were doing a great job by ranking number 1, number 2 for majority of these different variations, products, etc. However, this was one of the main reasons why they continued to struggle with profitability. So what we did is essentially we started looking at the brand from the ground up, and there's a few major problems which sort of concerned us in the beginning. One problem, which I already mentioned, was there was just too much activity going on, and this was leading to a lot of product overlap. This means the same product was active in multiple different smart bidding based campaigns, and this was not done on purpose. It was just because there was so much going on that it was hard to monitor which product is within which approach. And this was leading to something called internal bidding, which so many e-commerce brands have as a problem. The second problem was this brand's approach. And if we look right here, we can see that during that time, they had a variety of different performance max campaigns running. And this was because they were applying something called the branded plus non-branded approach. Essentially, what this meant was they were going after brand related keywords and just branded products with certain campaigns, whether it be performance max or search or standard shopping. And then these other campaign types, which were running alongside these branded campaigns, they were for non-brand related keywords. So this was completely cold traffic. And as you may imagine, this was leading to varying results. I mean, some campaigns were running at a 3.15x ROAS, 3x ROAS, while others were barely running at a 1.80x ROAS, 0.71x ROAS, so on and so forth. And although this was not a bad approach, branded versus non-brand, this was not enough for this brand to truly scale to the next level, because the total number of products that this brand was working with during that time, and even now, it was a little over 1,000. And if you just go with a brand versus non-brand approach, a lot of these products end up just kind of sitting there rotting away, which was exactly what was happening during that time. I mean, if we just do a little bit of a quick search by adding certain filters in, so if we add in a filter of all eligible products, we can see that during that time there were roughly 1,023 eligible products. However, if we add in one more filter of clicks less than 1, out of this 1,023 or 1,059 products, there were over 500, 600 products with less than a 1 link click. This meant roughly 50 to 60% of their product catalog had less than 1 link click, and that means the entire brand was relying on just 30-40% of the products, even though they could sell all of these other products. This was not an ideal approach that they had during that time, because it led to too many untested factors. That's essentially where now we started working from the ground up approach. And this kind of approach, we like to divide it into 3 different phases. It's analyze, optimize, and scale. The analysis phase led us to understand all of these problems. You always need to be analyzing your ad account and your results every 30 to 60 days, because that's when you understand all of these nitty-gritty details and all these small problems which are running in the background and negatively affecting your campaigns. But this directly put us into the optimization phase. But before we get into that, if you run a brand doing $50,000 a month or more in revenue and you want to scale to the next level with Google Ads, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me to see essentially how we can work together and make that happen. But the optimize phase is essentially exactly what it means. We needed to optimize their current results before we could add anything else. So what we did, we kind of worked backwards for this brand. Instead of just going in, launching a bunch of different campaigns and just doing all this unnecessary activity, we started work from the ground up, which means we started work by doing effective keyword research to understand what are some of the major keywords for this niche. And what we understood is, instead of going after the broadest keyword, like for example mattress topper, it was best to go after something a bit more specific but would sit still a good amount of search volume. For instance, latex mattress topper. And this narrowed approach, this more direct approach, allowed us now to go after a more direct audience, allowed us now to go after some of the users which are not only higher quality, but they're also higher buying intent. And this was kind of the first breakthroughs we had with this brand. But along with doing keyword research and optimizing the product titles from everything from the way it was laid out to just how the Google Merchant Center was in terms of product feed, information added, etc., that's all we did here. But once the foundational work was done, and once, by the way, the conversion tracking was fixed, that's when we started to work on the campaigns. And this approach that we take for the campaigns is always the same one. We like to take one step back to move 2 steps forward with the campaigns themselves. Here's what I mean. What we did is essentially, instead of just coming in and launching a bunch of new things, we actually decided to cut a lot of things out. So this 33 campaign approach, we narrowed it down to having only 12 different campaigns. This means any bad campaign that was not reaching our KPIs within a 14-day period, even a 7-day period, we essentially just got rid of it. We did not want to spend a single dime on it anymore, because there was already enough testing done here. So essentially, we jumped right into excluding things and right into making the things simpler. And during that time, it was actually not even 12 campaigns, it was like 9 campaigns. These 3 right here at the bottom, those were the newer campaigns which we launched. Once we started cutting things out, we also understood that the brand plus non-brand approach that this brand had already going, it was not going to be effective. So instead, we changed that approach to a collection-based approach. So all these PMAX, as you see right here, they're going after a specific sub-collection within the brand as a whole. So some of these are targeting mattress toppers, while other campaigns right here are targeting a different type of mattress topper, different materials, style, etc. So we really honed in on the segregation strategy and made it something very similar to each other, very specific, instead of just going broad and just targeting a brand versus a non-brand approach. And this ended up doing wonders for this brand, because I mean, if we look right here, the sales amount really started to increase. And in the last 14-day period alone for this brand, since we have optimized this brand and really started running this campaign approach, we can see that in total, this brand has gone up 62% in total revenue on the account level, while their ROAS has started to go up 12%. So it's at a 3.63x ROAS right now. The main goal is to get to a 5x ROAS, but things are really starting to tick in the right direction. And now, because we're seeing positive momentum, this is when we're starting to establish more of a scaling strategy. And for scale, we always nowadays go with two different scaling strategies. First one is to go with the vertical scaling route, where we're going in and number one, we're increasing budgets, but as we increase budgets, we're also increasing the target ROAS restriction, because these are smart bidding based campaigns. And this is because as you scale budgets, Google's algorithm starts to pump your ads to a bigger and bigger pool of audience. This means a lot more bad users, meaning those users who are not necessarily going to purchase from you, start getting shown your ad. So to keep that in control, to prevent your ROAS from going down, you need to be alternating between scaling your budgets and scaling your target ROAS values. Because if you just focus on one, it's going to pretty soon lead to a very unprofitable campaign. And this is what we're keeping in mind as we scale the budgets to 400 a day, 500 a day, so on and so forth. But in addition to that, we have started launching more search campaigns here, because what we started to realize is that brand plus non-brand approach, which was what this brand was doing initially, is working better for search campaigns than ever did for shopping. So that's what we're doing here. We're launching more of a brand specific related campaign versus non-brand specific related campaign. And it's all based around search terms on previous data. We're using all of the previous data this brand already has. But these are the few things we're keeping this brand around. So if you run a brand doing 50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need just a little bit of extra help scaling your brand to the next level. Go on my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me to see essentially how we can work together and make that happen. But check out this video right here on our top 5 performance max campaign strategies, some of which we use right here to scale this brand to this level.